Dear participants, our resource person Sri Subramani Babu today, the renowned scientist, he was in Computer Emergency Response Team India. Babu sir, I request you kindly to join the session. Am I audible to all the participants?
Yes.
Thank you, madam. Our resource person Sri Subramani Babu will join soon. Good morning to everyone. I extend a warm welcome on behalf of Sindhganga Education Society, on behalf of Sindhganga Institute of Technology, on behalf of faculty and student fraternity. You will enjoy today's first session with Sri Subramani Babu, is a renowned scientist from Computer Emergency Response Team India. He is having very sound knowledge. I request Sri Subramani Babu to join the session. Professor, am I audible? We are in the first session of fifth day sponsored workshop on cyber security hosted from the Department of Information Science and Engineering, Siddharth Institute of Technology, Tumkur, Karnataka State. I extend a warm welcome on behalf of Siddharth Education Society and on behalf of Siddharth Institute of Technology, on behalf of faculty and student fraternity, and on behalf of participants. I extend warm welcome to Sri Subramani Babu, former scientist, Computer Emergency Response Team India. I request you kindly to join the sessions, and we will introduce Subramani Babu. I will request Dr. Aparna, former head professor, Department of Information Science and Engineering at Siddharth Institute of Technology, to introduce Sri Subramani Babu to our audience. Sir, I hand over the session to Dr. Aparna Madam.
Hello. Am I audible? Sir, am I audible? Hello. So thank you, sir. Dear participants and my dear colleagues, good morning one and all. It is my privilege to introduce the resource person for this session, Sri Subramani Babu. Sri Subramani Babu is a renowned cyber security expert and a cyber forensic scientist. He worked as a scientist, Cyber Forensics Laboratory at Indian Computer Emergency Response Team, that is CERT, India, Department of Information Technology, Ministry of Communications and Information Technology, Government of India from 2008 to March 2016. He has also the experience of working as a member, technical staff at the Cyber Forensics Division at GEQD, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. He has assisted in cyber forensic examinations of various cybercrime cases, including of national interest. He has undertaken training on computer forensics from SANS Institute, SANS Bangalore, and has earned international digital forensic certifications, including GIAC Certified Forensic Analyst from SANS. He has also attended SANS training GCFA, GCFE, GNFA, and smartphone forensics from SANS. Mr. Babu specializes in Windows forensics, registry, Windows artifacts, intrusion detection and analysis, Android device forensics, Linux forensics, Mac OS X forensics, memory forensics, virtual machine server forensics, and forensics imaging of digital evidence, etc. He also specializes in the domain of incident response. He regularly trains law enforcement officers on cyber forensics. Currently, he is working as the global head, Cyber Forensics Investigation and E-Discovery Wing of MNC. With this brief introduction, I wholeheartedly welcome Mr. Subramani Babu for this session of the workshop. In this session, Mr. Babu will be enlightening us on cyber forensics tools, parsing Windows artifacts. Sir, it is our honor to have you as the resource person for this session, and on behalf of the Department of Information Science and Engineering, I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. Now I request Mr. Subramani Babu to take over the session. Thank you, one and all. Sir, please.
Thank you, madam. Good morning, participant. Hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
you are audible.
so much.
I request Sri Subramani Babu to take over the session as the annotation is handed over. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Sir, you can share your screen, sir.
ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Sorry, some network glitches.
Yes, sir, your screen is up.
Please let me know whether my screen is visible or not.
Yes, sir, your screen is visible, sir.
Sir.
Visible, sir.
Hello. Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes,
Yes.
sir, your screen is visible, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So let me start my session. Thank you, madam, for introductions. So I'm Subramani Babu. Prior to the current company called Emphasis, I worked with MHS CFSL Hyderabad, and then served India as a scientist. After some period of time, so I quit from government. Currently working with a private company. Actually, it's a corporate. So here my experience is completely different than where I was working with the government. So during my tenure with the government, in fact, I handled a lot of national interest cases. I mean to say, a lot of terrorist related activities, and I helped all leading national law enforcement agencies like NIA, CBI, and state terrorism squad police guys, like that. It's going on. So the current my profile is completely different. In fact, every corporate they do have their internal investigation team. In fact, everyone wants to secure their what I can say in IT resources. Okay, so let me take into the session. So just I would like to make interactive sessions on this. Just wanted to understand so far what are the concept you have learned it. So anyone of you would like to share would be good. So accordingly, I can cover up. Anyone? Sir, I am audible. Anyone can speak. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, just I wanted to confirm because I'm not getting any response. In fact, whether my session is on or off. In fact, I don't know actually. Right. So I don't know so far what other speakers have discussed here so far. Today my area which I'm going to cover are related to Windows system only. As you know, most of the people, most of the professors here, they are well versed with the file system and other operating system concept, right, as part of your academic interest. So, but when we get into this specific domain, like analyzing a Windows machine, how do we analyze, right? So before that, all of us, we let me take it as a one case study. Assume that you people are working for like any defense service or any other organization, where is the sensitive entity in the national interest. When you are going to office, so you are noticing one pen drive lies on your foot. So how many of you will not pick? I believe everyone curious to see, right? We can pick one pen drive lies on our foot. So of course we will take it up. What we will do next? We'll go to the office computer and we will connect it. That's all we used to do, right? So this is enough actually. If attacker wanted to take all your data, then you can target some specific people. So not that is a one concept. The same way, if I wanted to target only this group of people, so what I will do, I will create a one malicious PDF. I will send it to over mail. The moment if you open it, and your system will be compromised. So this is another context. So I believe every one of you heard about ransomware. Am I right? It's kind of malicious software. Malware stands for malicious software. So these are the like a source of infections. The moment if you are opening any document from unknown source, if you are visiting to the websites like which already compromised, that is another source. And your in servers, if it is getting exposed in the internet, then attacker, they are regularly keep on watching the systems exposed in the internet and try to target it actually. So the once if they successful compromise, then your system will get encrypted. Whatever user created file may not be available for further use. If you're trying to use, if you're trying to open, and you will be popped up with you need to pay for bitcoins or something cryptocurrency or some, in the form of cryptocurrency. This is how the ransomware attacks is currently emerging. Actually, what happened? I'll share one of my experience. 2 years back, I attended one international conference. There from I think New Zealand. One of the professor, one company, he is actually security evangelist. He was giving session. Then the first second slide I surprisingly noticed. So that guy gives government of Andhra Pradesh one slide, and then government of Odisha, and the government of Union Government of Environmental Sciences. These are the department he kept on his slide. I surprised. How come as a third party entity that also from other country? So that guy talks about our internal government. Then finally he told these are the targets where ransomware infected very badly. More than 1,500 computers from government of AP and other entity. Those systems were successfully encrypted. So how these guys comes to know? If you are using any poorly secured computer, then there is a chance to infect. Okay. So these are the case study just I wanted to touch upon. As a forensic investigator or malware analyst or reverse engineering expert, I need to find out what is the root cause, how the infection took place, how do your computer compromised. These are the questions comes naturally, right? And probably last 4 days you will be keep on listening cyber forensic, all these things. It is nothing but if we talk about in cyber security, it's a reactive measures. I mean, once the system is compromised, then how the system had compromised, we need to perform root cause investigations. So how do you do that? The answer is the slide which you are seeing it. So these are the crucial artifacts where you being as a forensic examiner, you need to look into that. So let's move on further. If you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, I will move forward. I'll wait for 5 seconds. Any questions, please ask.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Can you be a little louder?
Sir, can we save ourselves by using open source like Ubuntu or Kali Linux type operating system?
No. The question is here. Can you little louder, close to your mic?
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes. I can hear. Go ahead, sir.
Sir, can we safeguard ourselves by using open source software like Kali Linux or Ubuntu?
Of course, actually, if you see my investigation during this period, and I will use most of the open source tool only. Okay. So Kali Linux is the bunch of the tools where you'll be having some limited forensic tools, not more. Correct. So there are plenty of tools are available. If you Google it, just open source tools for Windows Artifact. Anyhow, and last slide I get some of the tools where you can find out. But Kali Linux, it's a kind of collection of tools which they put into the one single live CD. So that's how everybody is using it, but it is a limited. Usually Kali Linux is used for the both activities, kind of red teaming activity. I mean, kind of to perform any ethical hacking, you can use it Kali Linux, which already included plenty of tool on it. So did I answer your question?
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Right. So let us move on to know these are the crucial artifacts one by one. So what is the registry? So if you see registries and MFT, all other things are part of registry only. MFT, which you may be aware of it, master file table, and user assist key, prefetch, shimcache, mucache. So you know there are hundreds of artifacts available in the Windows machine, but in the interest of time, so I have chosen some of the important artifacts only. Otherwise, it will take more time to explain. So first, let's talk about the registry hives, right? Okay. So what do you mean by registry? Registry is nothing but it's a kind of heart of the operating system. I mean Windows operating system. So let me show my screen. My screen, this registry editor is open. Hello.
Yes, sir.
So this registry editor, right? All of you are seeing.
Yes, sir.
So this is actually, I can say, crucial for your operating system. I mean Windows operating system. So if it is getting corrupted, your operating system will not boot. Okay. So we will go further in detail with the operating system. Right. So as I said, it's a central hierarchical database used to store the information that is necessary to configure the system. I mean, once if you install the operating system, and sometimes you might have noticed if you are connecting one pen drive into your machine first time, any changes you could see on your system? I mean, right. So below you will be able to see installing drivers. Correct. Which mean that your operating system gathering some information from the pen drive. I mean, what is the serial number? What is the make? What is the model? So this query it makes, and accordingly make a changes on the registry. It entering the details. So the next time if you connect the same pen drive, it won't take that much time. I mean, couple of minutes or 30-40 seconds. Okay, what is the interest for forensic examiner? I'll put the case study like here. So you are here like a department HOD, some of your colleagues, without your permission, he access your computer particular day, and you simply observe the moment if he sees seen you, he removed the pen drive, he left from your cabin. Though you are asking him what you have done, he said no. Now you wanted to find out what are the activity he had done, whether did he copy any file. Correct. This is a scenario. The same thing it happens in the companies. I mean corporate, in government also. Some of the cases which I handled, some vigilance department on every ministry. Any corruptions or something it happens, that guy they will start doing internal investigations. So one of the guy, he was accused for some activity, and one day he came with a portable hard drive. He connected with one of the secretary, I mean IAS officer's system, and he started copying all his case related informations. And finally someone noticed this guy unnecessarily entered into the vigilance department, and while entering as well as he carried a hard drive, as well as while exiting he carried along with his hard drive. So someone noticed and they reported this case to us. When we investigated, I mean we took that machine, we found that a specific day whether any portable hard drive connected. Okay, so where to look into that? So this is the location, artifact location. Correct. So here you can find out. I will tell you, I'll show from my system what are the pen drives have been connected so far. Okay, so this is actually the entire registry stuff. Get into site, you will be seeing different maximum 5 folders here, hierarchical manner. The first one is the root folder. The second one is the current user. You know, in system multiple user account you can create. So as administrator you can see the current users, and the local machine is nothing but the whole computer. And users, H key users stands for number of user account which you can see here, and the finally current configurations, whatever the configuration which we made. So sometimes if you purchase any new printer, the moment if you are installing the printer, that printer details where you can trace it into the registry, which printer installed. Similarly, some guy in your college also some lab, some guy downloaded or installed a torrent application. You can find out here the torrent applications. What are the applications listed in the system? So this the layman understanding, registry is nothing but which keeps record of all hardware and software related informations. Clear? Right. So let me show you how I can find out the number of pen drive, different pen drive connected into my machine. So go to the local machines. Here H key is nothing but Hive key, right? And underneath you will find system and current control set. Enumerations, enum, and there is a USB store. USB store means USB storage. So far these are the stuff. These are the pen drive, I mean CD-ROM. These are the 4 stuff only connected in this machine. It's a new system. We haven't connected any laptop. Sorry, pen drive. Right. So this is how we are working on it. And we can find out the pen drive, whatever the pen drive is connected, you can notice it here. Right. So as I said, in registry files, so these kind of files will be there. So where to find out? So you can find from here, go to C:, Windows, System32. There is a folder called config. It will tell it's actually protected, system protected, but being as administrator, you can open up. Whatever you are seeing with the registry editor, the background, these are the files, the crucial files: system, software, security, and other activities. These are the important things. Pardon? No, is this questions to me? Okay. So these are the maximum. These are 4 main registry Hive files. One is a system, next one is the software, and the security, and the SAM. SAM, the last one, SAM, includes number of the user account. For example, your system, someone is hacked. If you are observing it, right, abnormal activity, he may have created one user account as the name as yours. But if you wanted to find out, so you can analyze this file, SAM. Similarly, any security issues. For you wanted to find out any softwares installed on your machines, then you have to look for the software registry hives. And any USB, as I said, there is a system, all hardware related information where you can find out in the system. So that is those main stuff. Whatever I explained here, it's there. System root, System32, config folder where you could find out. So assume that your system, you may be having multiple user account. One user account on your name, next user account on your child name. Now you wanted to see what your child is doing. So you can analyze this ntuser.dat. This is the file, ntuser.dat. So where you can find all informations related to that specific users. After logging into the system, what are the website he had visited and what are the pen drive he had connected, any application he had installed, or any other activity he had opened it. So those informations which you can see under nduser.dat file, right? So in native command, you can use the regedit command or regedit 32 for old system through command line, so that you can see this window, registry editor. But as a forensic examiner, if you wanted to analyze, you can use the software called Ncase, but this is a quite costly software. I can say there are free tools are available. RegRipper, REGRIPPER, RegRipper. With the help of that tool, I can show demo also. Final, if time is available, at last moment for 10 minutes, I can show the demo. How to do this, right? Okay. This is the same informations. This is how you can correlate. So Windows System 32 config folder, inside you will have the system I file, and where you can find out all software related informations under these things. So like that you can compare the both files. You may able to get the informations. Okay. The same way, if you are getting the case, then you can perform offline analysis and using Ncase you can mount the registry high files. You can perform the investigations. The same way you can close the tab also in Ncase. How to do all these things. So apart from that, you can see the third point. You have mounted Hive does use the extra RAM from your computer. I mean, the ones if you are performing analysis with the forensic software, so that will be utilizing your your RAM, the more spaces, and whatever the opened registry Hive file where you can see that. And apart from that, one more the crucial informations. I don't know whether someone covered or not. Volatile evidence. Anyone covered so far this concept, volatile evidence? Okay, so I'll take it up. It's not covered. Basically, evidence, digital evidence, right? I believe you are one of aware of it. And related to the computer terminology, I mean computer forensics. So volatile evidence is nothing but which you could recall from your academics topic, volatile memory, correct? The content is which is nothing but RAM. The RAM content, once if you are creating a dump, from there you can extract all this running application, including registry high files. Sometimes what happen, only the memory resident malware, the malware which you cannot you cannot find in the file system, and you can find the same thing on your volatile memory dump, correct? So this is the actually the importance of the volatile evidence. So if you see the traditional incident response, I mean search and seizure procedure of a digital evidence, the law enforcement guy will reach out to the crime scene. You would collect, you will simply disconnect the power cord and you will bring the whole cabinet into the forensic lab. But ultimately what we are losing? So we will be losing the crucial evidence called, I can say, volatile evidence. So for example, you see this one. My command prompt is visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, fine. So I am executing this command. You see, netstat minus anob, that is a parameters, and redirecting output to ns.txt. Right? Yes. So open. Let me open this file. You see here, active connections, correct? So this is a topic what I'm talking about, the importance of volatile evidence. I mean, without collecting volatile evidence, if you shut down the machine, we will not get this kind of evidence. As I said very beginning, if you are connecting one pen drive, I mean infected pen drive into your machine, then what will happen? The infected malware tried to call back to the creator. Correct? Creator means assume that I am the hacker. I created a PDF or I given one pen drive which already I infected. The moment if you are connecting your pen drive, your system will get compromised. Once if it is compromised, then your system will try to call me back. I mean attacker. So that's what this information you are seeing. Protocol, local address is nothing but your IP address along with the port number. The foreign IP address is nothing but attacker IP address. If you are accessing Gmail on your machine, from here you will be able to see the Gmail. Similarly, what is the state? Condition listening or closed or trying to establish. The final one, PID stands for process ID. I mean to say which processes initiated this internet connections. Got it? So if you scroll down, there are plenty of IP address connected. You see here, there is a IP address. My local IP address, this one. My local IP address, this one. And here another IP address. So you can copy this IP address. You can query it. This IP address belongs to whom? So how do you do that? This is how we are investigating, right? You see here how to find out. Central, there is another website called centralops.net. If you enter that IP address, you will be able to see who is the IP owner, that specific IP address owner. Here you have to type this IP address. Now you will be able to see what is this IP address all about. It says this IP address belongs to whom? Microsoft, this IP address. Clear? So like that, if you see somewhere, if you will be able to see the attacker IP address also. But without collecting, without executing this command, I mean, yes, without executing this command, if you shut down the machine, ultimately you will be losing the evidence. That's what volatile evidence. I mean, the police purposefully leaving the culprit like a thief voluntarily. It's equivalent to that context. So this is what we are keep on imparting training and intimating all police officers. If you go to the crime scene, you observe the machine is on, you have to execute this command. Not only that, this is the one sample of command. There are 300 similar command which you need to execute. Then it will collect all evidence. Okay. Okay, let me bring these things into our context. So how come this is important? So the moment if you capture the random, right, you can extract this running registry high file also. which is very much useful for your investigations. Got it? Okay. So apart from that, from registry, what more information you can collect it? You can collect time zone information, whether this computer belongs to India or this accused belongs to any other country based on the time zone, where you can interpret the system belongs to which time zone, right? And also you can determine what is the operating system is installed, right? And other activity. So these are the things very important which could help investigator, I mean law enforcement agencies. Basically, if you see in your registry editor, you will be able to see these three different set of control set. Control set 1, control set 2, control set, current control set. Correct? What do you mean by all these three categories? The control set 001 stands for the last control when it got booted with normally. Control set 2 is a good control set. I mean to say, if you experience sometimes your systems unable to start, it will try to go for last known configuration, known good configuration. That means if your system file corrupted, your registry or your operating system unable to start, that time it try to search where is the control set 2, where it is having a very good backup for starting your OS without having any error. It tries to restore this current control set 002. So that is important. The finally, what is meant by current control set means the currently which I logged in, all of you logged in onto your computer. That is a current control set. So what is the interest for forensic examiner? So this will help us sometimes to conclude whether the system is compromised or accused is using some of the software. If he had installed or any software, but if he uninstalled, then when you are analyzing it, the uninstalled applications shows it is not there anything. That time you can go back, you can find out this backup. So as I explained the same context, this one, basically these things, this information includes the current one, default, failed, last known good configurations. All this information which available from this registry dword field. Though it's a little technical, you can go back here, and if you see this is a data set, you open up, and this is a data type which you can find out. You see different type. So this is the value. Just a double click, you can set value, you can extract. Not only that, similarly you can enable register your USB is the read only or option only. Are you getting what I'm saying? You can set your computer your USB read only mode. I mean, if someone tried to copy your confidential information, he cannot achieve that. So how do you do that? Go to simply Google, okay, enable USB ports read only in Windows 10. If you enter, you see, you have to go like this. and they are giving these options. And you need to enable this option so that your computer become read only USB ports, or I can say in a layman understanding, read only. If someone try to plug their pen drive, try to copy your data, he may not be able to do that. So this is how you can try and create a key and put the instead of it by default. Okay, by default it's a 1. You have to make it 0. So once if you set a key as a 0, your computer become write protect. Nobody take away the data USB port. But this is how sometimes what happen as a forensic examiner. You might have heard about in past 4 days classes. Someone might have talked to you in related with write blocker, forensic write blocker. That it doesn't mean which means the traffic will go one directions, and so that your pen drive or your storage device which you are connecting back to your computer, the evidence integrity will be maintained. So that's how you can play with that, with the registry. Whatever you are saying, you can create a configuration accordingly, right? Good. The next one, any questions so far? If you have any questions, please ask.
Sir, actually, I have one pen drive. That pen drive is write protected, but I want to disable that write protected, but it is not possible to me write protected to remove.
No,
from,
that is okay. Let me make a further clarification. Thanks, sir, for asking this question. Whatever I was talking, that is related to your laptop USB ports,
Okay.
not your pen drive.
Okay.
So that pen drive that might have corrupted with some other activity, I can suggest you can attempt. There is actually is as a partition manager. That is a free version will be available. You download, connect your pen drive, delete all partitions, and do wiping and try to format, and you try to attempt. You may able to revert back that change.
Actually, I have tried, sir, but someone told me you have to go to the cyber forensic lab or some police office, then they can do the right protected, because we don't have that software to remove that.
No. I'll tell you, that is different, sir. Even forensic lab or any other guy can't help you out like that, except the pen drive owner. I mean OEM, original equipment manufacturer. If it is a SanDisk, you have to go to SanDisk only.
Okay.
No solution at all. Because I tried plenty of option. Sometimes people will tell you can try in the Linux mode. Still, I am not sure whether you can achieve this task.
I have tried to go to edit registry, then to 0, then make a go to command prompt, then partition, but not actually I don't have a solution for that.
Okay, but whatever changes you are making in registries, that is applicable for that system only, not external drives.
So I have a question that suppose the write protected mode in a specific laptop, so that we remove from that same laptop, or we can connect that pen drive to the another laptop or desktop, so we can remove that write protected mode.
Okay, very good questions. Again, let me make it now. If I showed you this is example, right? If you perform all these steps on your laptop is having 4 USB or 2 USB?
4 USB.
4 USB. Those 4 USB drives become read-only mode. It can, if you connect any external hard drive, pen drive, it can detect. You can transfer the content from the pen drive into your machine. But your machine will not allow you to copy the content from laptop and paste into the pen drive. Are you getting?
Same happened with my pen drive, sir.
It won't let you to copy anything into your pen drive. It will be like those USB ports are write protected.
Yeah, sir.
Correct? But
Sir.
the same pen drive, if you are using with other computer, yes, you can use it.
Yes, yes, sir.
That is applicable only for the laptop, where the machine where you are making changes.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So the next one, this is not applicable for current days of investigation. Of course, it is important. For example, you might have experienced you wanted to take a printout of one document in college or at home. How you are doing it? Prepare a Word document, right, and saving it. Then you are giving Control P for printing. The moment if you are giving Control P, what will happen? So that your Word document sends that document in the binary form into the printer. Correct? This is a logic. But how it goes? So this file goes in the form of that queue. Spooler file we used to say. Spooler. Okay, that is in the queue. And also this will have the extension called under the directory EMF. EMF, enhanced media file or something, where if you try to open whatever the printing document or any other file, if you are trying to give, those files will go and getting saved on this file name. So sometimes what happens if you are getting a hard drive from the accused and this accused is trying to send any files for printing in the office, corporate or government or something, where you will be able to extract the evidence. But one more thing, if some smart guy, he may be having the pen drive, he will connect to the pen drive, the content also, you would prepare a content from his residence computer, he will bring the pen drive into the office computer, connect from pen drive itself, we try to open the document and started printing. That time also from that copy, it will get transferred and getting stored on your computer in the form of EMF file. Sometimes if the printing job is over, then that EMF file size will be 0. That means you will not find anything. If it is a interrupt, printer is on, not on. The printer is not on, but your guy has given the printout. So it has to stay back on the fly, correct? Somewhere, some cache memory. So that is how you will be able to see these files. The same thing, this is the path. You can go to the System32, spool, printers. Okay, like that you can search. System32, spooler, correct? Here the file, printers, say yes. Here you can find it out, all the files. Excuse me. Okay, the next one is important, MFT. I think some of you would have heard about this term, correct? If you teach any file system concept to your student, for example, NTFS, FAT32, or any other file system. So MFT is a very, very crucial. Anyone heard about it? Okay, no problem. I'll move forward. So MFT stands for master file table. It is nothing but, if I explain in the layman understanding, you may be having engineering textbook on specific subject. If you wanted to access some specific chapter, basically how we are doing it,
Index.
we will be referring index page, correct?
Yes.
So index page we are going, we will be looking for some specific topic and what is the relevant page number. Accordingly, we are coming back to the book, that specific page number we are accessing. The same concept they have introduced in Windows operating system also, I mean file system. So that is nothing but MFT. In MFT, you will find every file records. I mean to say, if you are creating one document on desktop in the name of your name, any document file, then automatically the file entry is getting updated, I mean created in the MFT, right? So this MFT file, it is having around 1024 bits of the length. The record is keep on creating the file name attributes, name of the serial number, I think MFT entry, I mean the file name entry, and the name of the file, date of file creations. If you see any one file, for example, you take this file, right? This PPT today I prepared. Go to properties. You are seeing some detail, right? This is the details. Created date. So and so day, modified.
Yes, sir.
And accessed.
Yes, sir.
Apart from that, which application, what is the path, and still you wanted to go more, all other attributes, read only, hidden, advanced mode, lot of things. I mean metadata of the data, file attributes, which will be updated in the MFT here. All details you will be able to see MFT only, including go to security, whatever these details, whether myself I do have rights, full control or not, you will be able to see that. All this permission and further details. You see here most of the details. Title, correct? Authors, last saved by, revision number, when this has been created. There are plenty of informations. All informations you can find it out. One record of this file, MFT, master file table. If you are deleting it, if you are deleting any file, correct? What will happen? Go to your engineering textbook index page. Simply strike out that line. According to the index page, that file is deleted. But actually that file, the relevant page number, if you go, there you will see the content. Am I right?
Yes.
That is a data layer.
Yes.
This one is a file name layer and a data layer. Okay. You might have heard about format. There is a concept called format. Correct?
Yes. Yes,
You may be aware of it. Format. What does it mean? Same, you take an engineering book, you can tear that last index pages. 5 to 6 pages index pages will be the right. You simply tear off, then replace with a white sheet.
Yes, sir.
According to the index page, everything looks plain. I mean, the entire hard disk looks empty, but as a forensic examiner, you can go back to the data layer. You can recover all data there. That's what forensic examiner we are working.
We can recreate MFT.
Pardon, sir?
Can we recreate MFT?
Yes, sir. That's recreation of MFT is nothing but format. If you do format, the entire MFT will be recreated.
Recreated.
But actually, the content, the file content, is still exists in the data layer portion. Your hard disk.
Okay. Okay.
How the textbook, all other pages.
Hmm.
So this is how the data recovery software is working.
Hmm.
And the forensic examiner, we are recovering some of the file.
Hmm.
Got it?
Hmm. Okay.
So what have you heard about? Anyone of you heard about wiping?
Yes, sir. Wiping.
Yes.
CC cleaner.
Wiping, usually we can say from forensic examiner point of view, anti-forensic techniques.
Hmm.
If somebody doesn't want to recover any of your sensitive file or your privacy files or something,
Hmm.
you can perform wiping. Wiping, there is a free tool called Eraser. You can download that tool, Eraser. Okay, with the help of that tool, you can wipe specific file or specific folder or specific volume. Volume is nothing but here partition wise. And in fact, you can wipe whole hard drive also. So if you do one wiping, I can challenge in the entire world, no forensic examiner can recover your data.
Is the
So
same
these are
job,
the three
sir, is the same job CC cleaner is doing?
Pardon, sir?
CC cleaner.
No, C cleaner, it will not wipe, it will clean it up. Whatever the cache stuffs are there, everything it will clean. But forensically, it can be recovered.
Okay.
Forensically, you can recover. It will clean unnecessarily your slowness. All cache files are there, right? Like a sprint, spooler file, temp directory, and browsing history.
Okay.
Everything it will clean it up. That means permanent deletion. Nothing but permanent deletion.
Permanent deletion. Yes.
Exactly, which makes your system faster after that. But you know what happened? 1 year back, CCleaner was injected by malware. If you are using CCleaner, all your data, CCleaner owners can take it out, exfiltrate it. So this was came into the media, and the very big issue it had happened actually.
Yes,
So better
yes.
avoid that thing actually.
Right.
You can use this eraser tool for that. Correct.
Okay.
So this is what very crucial for MFT into the forensic examiner. Okay, so that I can tell you when the file is created, who modified it, and these are the information. You see, one MFT record we have seen, right, where
Yes.
this right click, I showed you right click of one file. What is that? Okay, if you do right click, go to find, right, that the details tab. Whatever you are seeing content, you can correlate all the file over here. But there you will be able to see only 10% of the file. Where if you do right click on this file, properties, go to details, whatever you are seeing, this is only 10% of the information which is visible to the end user. Correct? But actually this many information still you can dig out from the MFT entries. I mean standard informations, attribute, file name, volume versions, object, and all other activity, file name, attributes, everything you can extract from MFT entries, this MFT file. Okay. So another same way, how I said log file MFT, another file called $sign log file. Same MFT also you cannot see, but you can see in the name of hidden file, right?
Okay.
So another file called log file. This log files is keeping, it's nothing but log books. If you take a library, on your library, who are the member have taken the books, who are the people have written the books, those entries, kind of journal entries, all these things, it will be maintained in the log for this file. So this is also very much useful for a forensic examiner. Another artifact. The same thing, these log files will maintain all 4 timestamp: file modification, file creation, file access, and entry modified. So there could be 8 modification, 8 timestamp available against one file. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So sometimes what happens, some of the crucial timestamp, it will not be available for the end user. Only forensic examiner can access those timestamp. Right, sir? The same
Yes,
thing,
sir.
all other details related to link file and other activity where I mentioned it here. I'll share the PPT, you can take it up. This also related to same concept. The magic number. I think every one of you are having a smartphone, right?
Yes, sir.
The moment if you take a photographs and you are connecting smartphone into your laptop and you are transferring those photographs,
Yes, sir.
how your operating system can recognize these files are photographs? Any idea? I shouldn't have asked the questions, correct?
Based on the format, no, sir.
Pardon, sir?
Based on the format.
Excellent. Based on the file type, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
Exactly. The file type, all of us, we know the photographs is having
Dot JPG.
.jpj, correct?
Yes, sir.
JPG, JPEG.
JPEG.
This is for the normal users understanding, but the computer, your operating system will recognize based on the magic numbers.
Mhm.
You take a photograph
Mm.
or Word document file.
Mm.
Every file is having header and a footer.
Yes, sir.
Header is nothing but starting bytes
Yes, sir.
and a footer ending bytes.
Yes, sir.
So if you open your photograph in the XT editor, the first letter would be FFD8. FFD8,
Yes.
which means this file is a photograph, JPEG format.
Mm.
From there, it goes and finding the end of the 4 bytes. If it is having FFD9, that
Yes,
is
sir.
a footer magic number for photographs. Then in between content, it will save as a file. That is what file recovery does. You might have understand. File recovery will work based on the magic numbers. So
Yes,
more
sir.
than 10,000 file format are there. Every file format will have these magic numbers, header and footer, for Word document, PPT,
Mm.
or PDF, or executable, or binary, setup, AutoCAD file, any file you take, it will have the magic numbers. Right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't know whether I am boring all of you or not, but
No, sir.
another.
No, sir. No, sir. It is a very much technical information. It is very much useful to us.
Exactly. These are the topics usually we used to follow for investigations. If terrorists have, terrorists, they are very smart.
Yes,
That
sir.
guy, he will create one Word document file for 5 GB. Are you getting
Yes,
what
sir.
I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
One Word document file, I mean training.docx. If you see the size,
Okay.
5 GB.
Okay.
Do you think it will open? It will not open. The moment
It
if
will
you are
not open.
trying to open, you will be able to see all characters are junk characters.
Junk characters. Yes, sir.
Actually, there is a tool called TrueCrypt. Somebody might have heard about it. What happened? I got an opportunity to analyze one of the terrorist laptop.
Okay.
So that guy, he was having his laptop looks very clean.
Mhm.
But in desktop, I noticed one file, my stuff. This is the file name. mystuff.doc. That means document file. Even Word document icon was there. The file size is 15 GB.
Okay.
When we try to open, it's not opening. So
Okay.
finally, I learned, as I said at the very beginning, registry editor, right? There is a file format called ntuser.dat file. That file I converted into, that is actually basically binary form. You cannot read with naked eyes.
Okay.
That is binary form. You need to convert it into text file. When I did so, I surprised to see this guy is frequently using TrueCrypt. It is just a 5 MB open source free tool application which will help you to encrypt whole your hard drive. Are you getting?
Yes, sir.
This kind of encryption tools. So nobody in the world can decrypt. The mechanism he had adapted AES 256-bit encryption. Nobody can decrypt it. Finally, I told the police this file is contained, and police guys, they did third-degree treatment, and that guy shared the password.
Yeah.
That password we used, and inside it is a 15 GB Word document is nothing but one pen drive.
Yes, sir.
Inside, I was able to recover plenty of evidence, which is cracked so many important things, which is useful for government, that investigations team. So this is what I said. The attacker, we will change the file extension with the help of some other tools, and examiner may miss that, but operating system will always recognize based on the magic numbers. As I said, okay, that is important. Magic numbers. Okay, what you might have heard about free fetch.
Sir, I have one question.
Please, sir.
Sir, every time I use %temp% and prefetch command in run prompt. So I don't know what is actually difference between %temp percent and the prefetch. Every time I use it,
No, I'm not getting. If you are using in a run command a percentage prefetch percentage.
temp%.
Okay, no, this is actually the shortcut file where you can open on your system folder. Let me show. You press Windows button R, correct?
Run prompt.
That's a run key. Here you can use the percentage symbol. This is what your doubt, right? If you enter, this will open this temp directory. That's all. Other, it's actually it's a shortcut way to open these files.
Okay.
This location, nothing else. Okay.
Okay.
Similarly, you can use some other command also. This is actually, you can Google it. I mean, like this. Short cut run commands. You see, 34 useful shortcut commands.
Yes.
Right. Okay. What is a free fetch? Free fetching is nothing but assume that you are going to take a class. If you are going or something, some of your student, so they are very much keen on your expecting your presence or namesake, right? So if you are going immediately, he will give you a book, he will give you that specific topic, he will give you a duster or something, he will give you a chalk piece. So he was expecting you are going to do next activity. The same thing, if you take a Windows machine, you are going to open a browser. that operating system observes your behavior, the user behavior, how frequently you are accessing, you are opening some applications. Accordingly, your operating system keep it ready for your reference. The moment if you click browser, Chrome browser, within 2 seconds it will open. That's what free fetching, right? So why it is very much matter to forensic examiner. So what happens sometimes any malware comes, the malware executes. Okay, so what is the proof? Which malware executed on the machine, compromised machine. So this is the evidence location where you can find out. Yes, so I can find out this this day this malware executed. So how do we open? So this is the way where you can open. Go to Windows, right? Free fetch. Windows, free fetch, right? You see, these many applications I frequently accessed. So that the moment if I click Chrome, if I click the Chrome, it will open very quickly. Okay. So this is how it's a very important artifact for malware forensic examiner. Okay. The file name, whatever you are seeing, the name of the file here, right? The name of the file. Extension will be having .pf. This is what I described here. Half of the executable file name plus hash of the file path. Finally .pf. Right. So this is how it works. If you are launching Chrome, you will be able to see Chrome. Like here, come, you see Chrome exe, right? You see WinWord. You see the WinWord. WinWord means Word document, right? This is a WhatsApp desktop. Whatever application I'm using, you will be able to see the content. Correct? So I would like to share some more information. So if you see here, what is the artifacts? What is the malware? What is the interest for evidence artifacts? You will be able to see the system MAC ID, file created date, and the username. So those information you can extract from this PF file. The next one, shim cache. So next one is the shim cache. Next one is shim cache. I believe all of you could recall some period of time, almost 3-4 years back, we had 32-bit architecture. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
32-bit architecture. You know, right? Processor, microprocessor. You might have taught. You might have teaching to your students actually, like 16-bit processor, 8-bit processor, 16-bit processor, 32-bit. Now 64-bit processors have invented so far, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
So the same way operating system also they have designed 32-bit OS, 64-bit OS.
Yes, sir.
Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Some 4 or 5 years back, this was a scenario, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
And the same way, a lot of application earlier, lot of different third-party application designed according to the 32-bit architecture only.
Yes, sir.
So when operating system they moved according to the 64-bit architecture, all 32-bit architectured applications unable to
Run
start,
on. Yes, sir.
unable to work in the 64-bit architecture
Yes,
initial
sir.
days.
Yes, sir.
So then Microsoft, before releasing their 64-bit operating system, they thought of it and they have introduced one concept called shim cache, shimming the cache, nothing else. I can say another layman understanding, application compatibility. If you see the last line, the following key contains Shimcache data, H key LM system, current control set, control session, manager, app compatibility, app compatibility cache. This is the path. So how does it help? Any 32-bit architectured application comes third-party application. So that will be placed under this folder, and it converts into the 64-bit architectured application by operating system only, and it allows to execute it. So that is the way of do it. So what does it and how does it important to forensic examiner? The same way as I said in the earlier concept of free fetch. So this also records list of executable. I mean any malware or something is executed. So these information is also recorded under this folder so that malware forensic examiner able to detect it actually. Okay. The next one is the mu cache. I'll complete within 10 minutes. The next one is the mu cache. The same way, if you are downloading any application, the application, if you open for reverse engineering, there you will be able to see the name of the executable. So sometimes what happen, attacker, he will keep a different name, so to make a fool of a forensic examiner. But this mu cache entry can give you the right file name. When you are developing any applications, and the name of the application, it will be extracted under this key where you can find out. The same way, the user assist key also, where you can extract from the registries, and it contains the username as well as the number of applications is running, and the entire it will be maintained in the encoded format. You see encoded format, rotation 30. You may be having this. You may be aware of these things. If you write my name Babu, B, the exact next 13th character will be there. A, the next exact 13th character will be there. It's kind of encoded. If you revert back, you will be having the right name. So this is how we people, as a forensic examiner, we used to extract any executable related to malware, all artifacts, and we are helping law enforcement agency to crack their cases also. But the same way, if any malware related incident, and we were able to find that means the root cause. So this is how it works, and these slides also related to this only. And finally, these are the tools, free tools. Whatever I mentioned, I never promote any commercial tools. More than 99, even 100% tools, you can use only free tools to conduct forensic examination. Doesn't require, as one of the sir said, what does it call? Kali Linux, right? So similar tools where you will be able to find in the internet, and these many freely available tools. So that's all I planned today actually. So if you have any questions, I'll open it for 10 minutes session for Q&A, and let us discuss. I'm happy to answer whatever the queries you are having.
Dear participants, we encourage you to interact with our resource person. You can, you are all academicians and teachers. I think this knowledge which is promoted from Sri Subramani Babu to you will definitely help our academia. I request you kindly to participate in this interaction actively. Be encouraged.
Sir, any questions? If you have any questions, please ask related to cyber forensic or cyber security or any activity. So one more information, and what is my suggestion also for your institution? you design and develop a curriculum for cybersecurity. I believe already you may be having it, right?
Sir, we are having, sir, but it should be very effective to cater the needs of the student and also to the industry and to the domain. I think I will contact you some other time with all the curriculum, sir. We need your help to design our laboratory also.
That's what, sir. My recommendation is, I will share my personal experience.
Yes, sir.
When I worked with the government nominated me for Carnegie Mellon University, USA.
Okay, sir.
So I got the opportunity to visit there. That is the number one in private university. Every one of you heard about it. They have designed the course for industry requirement. What is the current industry requirement? What
Okay,
is
sir.
their expectation?
Okay.
Even for my company currently, I need 13 people related to SOC operation, security operations procedure, right? Operation center. So this is my requirement. And being as an academic institution, you design a curriculum for a last final year student or something,
Yes,
and
sir.
let them do kind of interns, and you can make a students which they are immediately. I can adapt those students directly into my productivity. If I
Okay,
put
sir.
that student in today's shape, tomorrow onwards or within 15 days, he should
Okay,
have the
sir.
capability to take it forward without
Okay,
any
sir. Okay, sir.
knowledge transfer or vigorous training or any other activity. So we need to design in the academics in such a way that what industry's expectations, what they need, what is their actual requirement. So one of your faculty said, Kali Linux. So you
Yes, sir.
can create a laboratory for the cybersecurity program,
Yes,
Kali
sir.
Linux or any other tools, red team activity, blue team activities, whatever the forensic courses and
Yes,
log
sir.
analysis. There are plenty of stuffs are there, sir.
Okay, sir.
If this corona ends, you can
Yes,
plan.
sir.
I
Yes,
can
sir. Yes,
visit
sir.
to your college.
Yes,
I
sir. Please,
can
sir.
give sessions or something,
Yes, sir.
which we can
Please, sir.
extend our support to your institution also.
You are most welcome, sir. We are very lucky to have you here. Sir, I have two students, postgraduate MTech students here. One, Prashant B. Prashant B, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
The
Sir.
Prashant B is in final year MTech, sir, first semester. And one more is Kumar Divyanshu has submitted in the MTech dissertation. He is also in this workshop. Kumar Divyanshu, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I request you kindly to interact with Sri Subramani Babu sir. He is a very technically sound and renowned cyber forensic professional in the government of India. I kindly request you to interact. Sir, Kumar Divyanshu has already obtained his network certification from CTAC, and he has studied in MTech and he has submitted his thesis.
Right, sir. I'm happy to guide them. No problem. I in fact, at the very beginning, I have shared my contact number.
Yes, sir.
My personal contact and personal mail ID, so
Okay,
they can
sir.
reach out to me at any point of time. So
Okay, sir.
I can guide them. So that is not an issue. Happy to
Dear
do that.
participants, any other questions, please?
Sorry, sir.
For participants, sir. Participants, any other questions, please? Interact.
Sir,
Yes, please.
Hello.
Unable to hear, sir. Actually, if you text your questions also, that also will and fine. It's a completely voice is cracking.
sir, related to registry, is there a
Now your channel is noisy. You can type the question.
Correct, sir.
Sir,
Yes, your voice is noisy actually.
Sir, one
You can
question is from one of the
text
participants. Is it possible if you clone the HDD, then we will recover the HDD data back again?
Sorry, sir. I completely lost you. Can you go ahead, please?
Is it possible if you clone the HDD, then we will recover the HDD data back again? Using clone tools like Ghost or Clonezilla or Acronix.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's very much possible. That's how forensic cloning we are doing it. Cloning is nothing but an exact replica, right? We can.
Yes, imaging. Yes, sir. Exactly.
Yes, it's possible.
Yes, sir. One more question from participant, sir. I want to learn more details about registry.
Okay, sir.
That
Sir,
question
there is a blog called SANS forensic blog there where you will be able to find a rich information over there actually. Plenty of information. SANS computer forensic blog. Otherwise, go to YouTube. You can type it computer forensic or registry analysis. You will be having related to DFIR, Digital
DFIR.
Forensic Incident Response.
Okay, dear participants, any other question for the 2 minutes? Okay. Dear participants, actually Sri Subramani Babu is a very renowned cyber forensic and cyber security professional. He is a very hard worker, and his contributions and his achievements to this country is really, it is rememberable, and is always ready to share his knowledge with us. In fact, the one session is not possible for Subramani Babu sir, and also it is not possible for Vibhuvanand sir, both the 2 sessions. Actually, they are all capable of providing training and sharing knowledge for weeks together or months together. That is the capacity they have. But in this 5-day workshop, we have struggled to accommodate all our resource persons, giant resource persons. And Dr. Subramani Babu, in fact, is a very busy personality. When I requested him, he immediately accepted without 2 words. And he is ready to come over here. As you have seen, he has expressed his willingness to set up the laboratory in our institution. So that is the kind of enthusiasm that our resource persons we have. Only that from our side, we have to stand up and to meet the challenges in the domain of cyber forensic and cyber security. We have to acquire knowledge, we have to apply knowledge, we have to design something new, innovative with the support and encouragement of this. So we have to build the next generation for this country. That is the responsibility we have. With that objective, this workshop, in fact, it is organized. And I am very lucky to have your kind cooperation and the patience in participating in this workshop in all these days. And our next sessions will start at 12 o'clock. Now, before that, Sir, Subramani Babu sir, I am very, very happy, and it is my immense pleasure to extend thanks on behalf of Siddhganga Education Society, on behalf of Siddhganga Institute of Technology, and on behalf of faculty and student fraternity, and more than that, on behalf of our participants are all happy from your session. So on behalf of them, I extend warm thanks to you, sir. So we are very lucky to have you here. So thank you for your kind cooperation and encouragement. Thank you.
Sir, thank you so much. Thanks for
Thank you.
opportunity. Let us
Thank you,
connect
sir.
directly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Have a-
participant. Excuse if I wasted your time.
No, sir, it is very useful, technically oriented. We have enjoyed
Right.
this practice session, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you
very
so much.
sir. Thank you. Thank
Meet
you.
you soon. Thank you. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Right, sir.
Dear participants, there is a break. Again, we are going to join at 12 o'clock. All our sessions start sharply at the right time. Our resource persons are also ready. Very enthusiastic to meet us online. So within another couple of 20 minutes, so our next session will starts at 12 o'clock sharply. I request you kindly to take a break and then rejoin with our new link. Thank you very much.